Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Cleveland! You probably don't care tonight about preseason basketball. I understand. You probably have a much more important thing to talk about. But welcome to the second episode of the Block the Shot to Stop, a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network, where we get live after every single Cavaliers game to talk to you, the fans, about the night's events. Tim Daniel here, as always, with the crew, Skylar Webker and Kevin Lynch hanging out tonight. You got the three of us tonight. So we're excited. Kevin making his Block Shot Stop debut tonight. He is our Jarrett Allen tonight. He's coming in handy as the only starter, obviously. But guys, obviously, we're starting to see a little bit more of the Cavs, and we're starting to see we've got 2 preseason games under the belt now. We're starting to see the Kenny Atkinson game plan a little more. Even tonight, the Cavs don't play their starters, all except Jarrett Allen, which I know we all have comments on. But even in the group that was in there, so you saw a lot of Ty Jerome, you saw a lot of Dean Wade, you saw a lot of Georges Niang, Jalen Tyson getting extra minutes after not playing a whole lot tonight on the previous game, who I was pretty impressed by. I thought he played really, really well. But a fun night for all the younger guys. I know they were kind of outmatched because the Pacers played their starters, but a lot to take away from that. So, Kevin, we'll start with you, man. Takeaways that you have from Game 2 of the Kenny Atkinson era.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. The two big things are, why did Jarrett Allen play but none of the other starters did? And we were kind of speculating about that off camera. Like, is it strictly a conditioning thing, or are they thinking about him being the starter that runs with the second unit, so they want to give him some time with them? I guess none of us know the answer. We're just speculating. The other thing is, I mean, the whole point of tonight's game was like figuring out some things about the Cavs' depth and who are going to be those guys. I mean, you know who the 5 starters are. You know, Okoro, Dean Wade's going to play some, Niang's going to play some. But I guess they're still figuring out who those maybe 9, 10, 11 guys are that are going to play, and then who are the guys after them that aren't going to play very much. And so I think that was the point of tonight's game. See, who might be able to fill in those last like regular rotation spots, and who's frankly not going to see as many minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Skylar, I'll bring you into the conversation here strictly with 2 words. Jalen Tyson.
Yeah, he looks great. I mean, he's getting more shots up, and the more comfortable he gets in an NBA setting, I think the better. He is going to spend some time in Canton with the charge, but hopefully that it helps develop and get him up to speed for the NBA season. Like Kevin said, we're still trying to figure out who that 9, 10, 11 guy is. And it's very much in realm of possibility for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I text you guys this offhand, but Kevin kind of talked about how Georges Niang was probably getting a little bit more action offensively than he should have early. And I'm really under the impression that we're pretty soon going to see Jalen Tyson probably right after the first of the year cut into those Niang minutes. He's one of those doesn't do something great, but does everything decent kind of players. And I think that's going to stand out a lot. And I think that's something that Kenny Atkinson is really going to love on his team. Kevin brought up Jarrett Allen, and I know we all are kind of wondering the same thing of why. But I thought in the minutes he played tonight, thought he looked really, really good. Again, not 100% certain why he played, but what they got from him tonight is what can really be reassuring for this team moving forward to kind of answer the questions of, can him and Mobley play together? What does the core 4 look like? Can they get over the quote unquote weakness at the 3 with, but if they could play like they got from Allen the first 2 games of the preseason? I absolutely think that that's really beneficial. Or is this a situation, I don't want to get too far into the rabbit hole in the second preseason game of the year by any means, but is this a situation where there's been the rumblings of Jarrett Allen potentially not being a Cavalier by February? And is this something where maybe they're giving an opportunity for teams to see that? I doubt it because it's a preseason game, but I'm not taking anything off the table.
I think a more realistic approach would be they're trying to see if Jarrett Allen can run with the second unit, because they're going to really try to make Evan Mobley the focal point in that first unit offense. So if you could have Evan Mobley running as your 4-5 in the first unit and have Jarrett Allen running a second unit, and this is not a Jarrett Allen coming off of the bench
Right.
But that's a huge benefit when the guys that are coming off of the bench would be Okoro, LeVert, and Dean Wade. So if you can have Jarrett Allen, who's also running off with those guys, that's a pretty good second unit to be rolling out there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Skylar. Is as we were talking, I was thinking like Jarrett Allen especially in that first quarter kind of filled in the same way, the way that Mobley was in the first quarter of the first game. Right?
Yeah,
he was kind of being that focal point, and so kind of thinking along the same lines as you, Skylar, is like, can Mobley be the focal point when it is the first unit, but when it's second unit, can it be Jarrett Allen? I think it makes sense to stagger those two's minutes, and that way Tristan Thompson never has to be on the floor. And
he didn't look bad tonight. He had moments.
Yeah, but anyway, I think they're definitely trying to run more offense, specifically through Mobley, but like through their big guys, you could see that, and basically have almost Allen and Mobley be interchangeable instead of they're always trying to make those two complement each other. Could they more be interchangeable? So like one of them could be on the floor for the 48 minutes.
Yeah,
and if that works out, think about how versatile this Cavs team now becomes. You have these the two tower men that are interchangeable, can run with either unit and be an offensive focal point. That's great to have. That's every NBA team is looking to have some setup like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there for sure. We'll talk about a few guys, other guys that played, kind of get some things that jumped out. I want to talk about Isaac Okoro. Obviously was a Cavaliers hot button this offseason of would he sign back, would he not, and why did it take so long just to sign for $38 million? Who knows? But and the role he played tonight, especially in the offense when they kind of got in the half court, seeing him as a role guy, seeing him as like the role man on the pick and rolls was really, really a nice spot for him. I thought he looked really, really good in that situation. We know who he is at this point, right? I mean, last year he shot the ball really well. I think Kenny for sure is going to probably use him in different ways than JB did. And JB really didn't have him do a lot of that. It was a lot of stand in the corner. It was a lot of catch and shoot. It was a lot of cut to the rim. Where here it was kind of like setting the high screens and rolling away to kind of catch the ball and get more of those catch and shoot shots where you're getting more space. I thought this was a nice spot for Okoro, depending, I know the conversations basically consistent between Karras, Max, and Isaac Okoro are going to get those bins for the 3 spot. But I thought tonight he did a pretty good job to show that, this is why you guys brought me back.
No, and I agree. And I was thinking the same thing, is that Atkinson is trying to figure out how to maximize Okoro on the offensive end because they desperately need him on the defensive end. Like he's far and away the best wing defender on the team, and they're going to need him to play heavy minutes in a lot of matchups. And so they need to figure out how he can at least be neutral, if not a positive, on the offensive end, because they're going to, as the team's presently constructed, they're going to desperately need him on the defensive end in quite a bit of matchups. I would say matchups against maybe 10 teams in the NBA for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, he's by far our best defender. So to try and find where he fits in an offense, that is going to be that's something that we want to figure out here in the preseason. Not 40 games in.
Yeah. I thought the aggressiveness on the offense was nice too. He drew that foul against Miles Turner right before the end of the half. That was really big. Just kind of seeing him kind of try to attack everything was huge. And I think like you guys said, finding the ways to use him to where he can be effective offensively, to where you can kind of, if you have situations like you have right now where you don't know when you're going to get Max Strus back, it doesn't sound major. But you have that situation where you can count on him and that makes it easy. And obviously too, we know, like you said the other day, Skylar, it sounds like Karis LeVert's kind of carving out that 6-man role, which is probably the best role for him for this team as well. And so this is a situation where Okoro can really kind of give a lot there. So I liked his game a lot. I like Dean Wade a lot tonight. I thought he had some really, really nice moments. Obviously we know what he is as an athlete, but pretty solid defender, had some really nice shots today. I thought Wade really kind of did a lot for himself as well. It was a nice performance for him.
No, Tim, and I want to go back to Okoro for one more sec before we move on. There's no reason he can't be a positive offensive player on this team too. I think it was a lot about maybe his usage, maybe his confidence in years past and everything. But like now, if he's shooting 39% with the athleticism that he has, with all the defensive attention paid to the other guys in the Cavs, there's no reason he can't be a good 3-point shooter and an excellent cutter. So I think that's maybe, kind of under the radar. One of the big things that Kenny Atkinson needs to kind of figure out is how to best maximize Okoro on the offensive end, because I wouldn't be surprised if Okoro, whether he's starting or not, ends up averaging around 30 minutes a game on this team as presently constructed.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought that's a really good point for sure. I know I kind of touched real quick on Dean Wade. Thought he had a really nice performance today as well. But I thought that, I understand what they're trying to do with Ty Jerome. You can tell he's still getting his legs underneath him. The shooting wasn't great, but did a really good job facilitating the offense. I don't know if I want him. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this out. Basically, like, I'm not trying to bash the kid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want him being the first guy that takes point guard minutes from Darius Garland subs out. And I don't think he will be necessarily. I think guys like Sam Merrill will probably definitely get some spots there as well. They'll move Donovan Mitchell over to be kind of more of the ball handle in the half court. But I thought for Ty Jerome, just kind of being that facilitating point guard was okay, but no one seems scared of him shooting the ball whatsoever.
No, and that's what we talked about in the last episode, was needing a backup point guard that's enough of a offensive threat to draw attention, but is still able to facilitate for the other guys that you have coming. So it's clear that is kind of a hole in this Cavs roster in the 2 preseason games. Now, Ty Jerome could turn it around, get his shooting form back in motion. But that right now is probably the biggest concern with how this roster is constructed now.
Well, I think like the solution is what Tim said, or the final thought Tim had is like, have Donovan Mitchell play point guard 15 minutes a game. And especially if you get Mitchell this season, where he really is going to try and be the complete player, potential MVP player, like a player that lifts his teammates and everything. Him playing point guard 15 minutes a game, I actually think would be a really good thing for the team. And if he's playing point guard, that means more Okoro, more Merrill, more Strus, more LeVert, instead of maybe someone toward the end of the bench only be playing just because they're a point guard.
I think it's a good tactic. The one concern with that I have would be the Donovan Mitchell's usage and minutes. He fell just short of where he needed to be that first team all NBA player. So if you can have somebody that can eat some of those minutes so that he is well rested, because this Cavs team is going to make a long run, hopefully. So I think having somebody that could take those minutes would be more beneficial, so that we have that utilization for Donovan Mitchell. And this is thinking 80, 90 games out.
Sure. No, you're not wrong. I think I'm thinking more in the matchups that really matter, like, playing the teams in the East that they might be competing for seeding and things like that. Those are the games you maybe lean on Mitchell to play point guard a little bit more and everything, right? But you're right. I wouldn't expect him to play point guard, 15 minutes a game, 80 games a year. Like that's probably asking a little bit too much with everything else you ask Mitchell to do.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously he's down for it. That's the one thing that's kind of also scary is he will do it if you ask him to do it. Skylar, our guy, came back again tonight, keeping it going. The Australian sensation, Luke Travers, had a dunk.
He looked great.
Looked
great in that third quarter. He had several threes. That dunk. I mean, he if not for Tyson, I think Luke Travers would have the next best odds to make that 9, 10, 11 man for this team. Those years in the Australian League, they're showing that he's polished up to be an NBA level player.
Yeah, I agree. And I know Kevin, obviously, as a guy who became a big time South Sudan fan this summer. I know you're very excited to see JT Thor on the floor. So
yeah. I mean, I definitely have a soft spot for South Sudan. We talked about that a lot over the Olympics, and kind of probably follow all those guys to see how they do in the NBA. But yeah, no, I mean, good for him. He showed he's super athletic. He was kind of flying around and still kind of raw as far as his like ability goes.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan, and maybe it's just because he played for South Sudan, and they were this close to making the knockout rounds in the Olympics this year. Gosh, if they had just beat Serbia. But then again, we don't get that semifinal game if they do. So I thought that he's kind of doing as though, he's going to be spending a lot of time with the Charge as well. Craig Porter Jr., I thought really did a lot for himself tonight, especially considering he played bulk of the minutes guarding Tyrese Halliburton. And I thought that was really impressive. I thought they played minus the second quarter where they gave up 41 points, but they also scored 39 in that quarter. I thought defensively they were fine for not having their best defenders out there. I mean, Allen, obviously, and Wade, but I thought they were all right. I thought Craig Porter Jr. did a pretty decent job on the defensive side of the ball, but obviously when you're going with your last few guys of your rotation, plus your guys trying to make the team against the Eastern Conference runner-ups starting unit, you're probably going to have stuff like instances like you had tonight where the Pacers go on big runs. But I didn't think they were terrible by any means. I thought they definitely kind of gave a lot to be excited about to keep somewhat of the bigger staff defensive talents going.
One stat that stood out to me was when they broke at half, the Cavs bench held Siakam and Halliburton to 7 points each on 16 minutes of play. Those are two current and former All-Stars. And the Cavs bench held them, each of them, to 7 minutes at the half. That's not nothing to sniff your nose at.
Yeah, I agree. But I think we've kind of dabbed on everything here on this game. I think that they did, there was a lot to take away, a lot to be excited about as they kind of move forward. Obviously, Wednesday, they're off on a break till Wednesday, and they face old friend JB as they head to Detroit for the Little Caesars Arena to face the Pistons, who had an epic comeback in preseason against the Milwaukee Bucks last week. So I think JB is going to do a really good job in Detroit. I don't think they're necessarily going to be a good team by any means, but could I see them getting 10 more wins this year than they had last year? Because, they had 14 last year. I could see him doing that.
It's a better situation for his strengths as a coach. For sure.
Right.
I think we all agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of almost like Cleveland too.
When it was Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, that was really your team, and he led it to what it was last year. So
sounds like this is going to be dress rehearsal if things are going the way their game plan. So it's going to be everyone's going to play the most minutes of preseason this game, and then Friday against the Bulls next week, probably barely play, which we kind of talked about. I know the goal is to just show after every game. We'll probably take that one off because if Monty Bates isn't playing, we probably don't need to be doing a show that night. So, what do you guys want to see in that game? What do you want to see from, What do you want to see from the core 4 guys? What do you want to see from these guys who are fighting for a shot at the rotation? What's something that really kind of jumps out to you individually or as a team that you want to see in this next matchup with the Pistons?
So I sent a link from Chris Fedor at Cleveland.com. He put something out that the coach that they're practicing on a shortened shot clock, which means that they're going to be trying to run with pace. And that's what I want to see against a young, athletic Pistons team. Can they actually do what they're practicing and run with pace?
Yeah, for me, I want to see an extension of what we saw with Evan Mobley in game 1 and see what it looks like him running through the offense. Because that as good as Mitchell is, the absolute best thing that could happen to this team is if Mobley ended up being the team's MVP. Because if Mobley's the team's MVP, they're probably a top 2 or 3 seed in the East and all that. So it's all for me. The two biggest things are Mobley's offensive development, both how they use him and how he's improving. And then it's kind of the same thing with the Cavs since this team's been constructed is how do the main 4 guys complement each other? They're all very good players. They all are winning players that everyone would want on their team, but do their skills like complement each other or almost maybe work against each other at times? So the biggest thing is how Kenny Atkinson can kind of bring out each of them using their skills in a complementary way towards each other.
Yeah, I think you guys both hit the nail on the head on that for that as well. But I think, guys, I think we can wrap this here. I think 22 minutes is fair for a preseason matchup. Kevin, I'm so glad we got to get you on your debut episode here. It's super excited to have you on the team, as you know. I think this is going to be a super fun year to cover the Cavs, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, if you are checking this out, whether you're on one of your podcast apps of choice, please give us a subscription. If you're checking us out on YouTube, give us a subscription there. Find us on Facebook. You can give us a like there. Follow us on Twitter at The Block to Stop. And many, many more things going on. But we will be here throughout the year. Check out next Tuesday. Well, the Tuesday after the Pistons game. So 2 Tuesdays. I'm sick. Cut me some slack. We'll be doing our full-on season preview. But we will be back next Wednesday after the Pistons preseason game. So on behalf of Kevin, on behalf of Skylar, thank you all. Have a great night.
Go Cavs.